responds video to Hothliday, the lying scum. I mean, he's just a preposterous liar. Really, it's just disgusting. So even in the title again, virtue of antinatalism founded on faith and assertion. Yeah, founded on assertions based on factual circumstances. The fact that there's absolutely not one single contrary piece of evidence to the theory, okay, that other people are sentient like I am, that they are enjoying or not enjoying the very same edifying experience that I'm enjoying by being conscious. Being conscious edifies me to what consciousness is, and there are other consciousnesses. He calls that faith and assertion. Yeah, right. Too preposterous. I mean, you're just going to glean out of this people who are obnoxious and hostile to logic, the truth, integrity. Clearly, this is not an argument made out of integrity or any concern for the truth, any regard for the priorities, let's just say it that way, of being fair, being decent, being reasonable. And so, you know, what can you do? It's not really a real argument, right? I mean, he's like a religious kook. He's just totally obnoxious to even discussing anything in any kind of context where he could be anything but right. Even though all the evidence points to the fact that he's wrong. He's just going to ignore it. He just doesn't care about the truth. And that's all it comes down to. Because you can see him just butcher it. So anyway, he plays this clip from that detective show, where the grumpy guy, is just basically pointing out that we're too smart to play a dumb game. That's basically the point being made. Nature made a mistake. It made a smart organism that's too stupid to play gladiator war. It's just too stupid to play a game where it can't control most of it. You know, you can think your kid's going to be healthy, you can think a lot of things, but you can't control any of it. Most of it. And that the parts you can control, your choices are often crappy and shitty. Yeah. And so it's just too stupid a game. And then that's not even getting to the point of what are our ambitions and our aspirations built out of. And they're just built out of byproducts. We're just byproducts of culture. I mean, you're owned by your culture, your vocabulary, your mannerisms, your attitudes. And you're going to talk about your agency? Agency based on what? Geography? You're going to tell me that that means something? Oh, a piece of the geography is speaking. How interesting. What an important... Let's go listen to the geography talk. Let's go listen to a collection of silly cultural traditions. Tell us what's important. We need to score a goal for the red team, or whatever you call your teams. The blues, or the greens, or whatever the fuck. Yeah, right. That's important. No, sorry. It's subjective crap. So anyway, just so... I mean, I can't believe that he's just such a petty weasel. I mean, I always thought he was willing to break rules and be a little bit conniving, but this is just so overtly disgusting a lie. I mean, he can't paraphrase anybody correctly, ever.
There we have it. One man's antinatalism enshrined in Aristotelian virtue ethics.
So now he's going to qualify the other guy, even though the other guy was pretty explicit, talking about evolution and talking about, you know, the crudity of the mechanism. He's going to tell him, no, you're really saying what Jerry Falwell said, or you're really saying what the Pope says, or you're really doing this, or you're really doing that. So would it be fair cop for me just to return the favor and say you're just talking out of your ass? I mean, what the fuck is that shit? You just made that up.
That which is honourable, that which he imposes.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with honourable, it has to do with stupid. Okay, so that's the argument. The argument is it's like the Einstein argument. You know, doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. We've already seen what the result is. We've already seen how this game is played. And it's never played well. It's always played to a loss, and everything dies in the end. And here you arrogant motherfuckers are sitting here telling other people, don't worry, it's all worth it. And you haven't even died yet. You haven't even played the whole fucking game. And you're sitting there telling people you have a right to sign other people up. And you haven't even played the game yet. You want to talk about way the fuck out of bounds.
His honor system. What?
It has nothing to do with honor. Oh shit, I hit the wrong button. Space, bomb, anyway, so you get the idea.
Aristotelian honor system. What he says is virtue is for.
Okay, so again, had nothing in his conversation had anything to do with virtue. Just had to do with basic mechanics. It's a cruel, foul, disgusting system. The game is dumb. Make a need, satisfy half a need. And at the cost of the worst case scenario, which none of you pussies, I know if I really forced you to have to choose, you wouldn't play the game. You wouldn't take the risk of getting the worst case scenario. Alright? And that's just a truth. So you're all goddamn fucking, go ahead, hack your arms off and tell me about how great your life is. Fucking idiot.
Us to stop procreating and gracefully exit because of.
Yeah. And when your counter argument is no, there's a defense for playing a silly game of cultural ambitions, perpetrated at huge expense. Again, if I gave people real statistics and I forced them to really do it, okay, if I said, look, if we know all these things cost lives, it costs welfare suffering, I could say the Super Bowl. We know people die for the Super Bowl. All right, so let's just calculate it out. I'll just say it for an example. So to have the Super Bowl, you have to give one kid cancer. That's the reality. That's the let's combine all this suffering that's created by the stupid Super Bowl and put it into one person and just say, okay, there, one child has to go has cancer because of the stupid Super Bowl. Do you really see anything in the Super Bowl that's worth giving somebody cancer over? Is there anything being accomplished that could possibly be worth that? No, there isn't. It's just a trivial, stupid addiction.
Well, his point of view that life is a game which is not honourable.
Yeah, that's not what he said, okay? What he said is it's not sufficiently efficient, okay? He didn't use those words, but that's the accurate paraphrase, douchebag, and you goddamn know it. You've heard me say it enough times to know it. It's not sufficiently efficient. Smart things don't play dumb games, and it's a dumb fucking game. That's what he was saying, jackass.
Contains no virtue, and
that's not what he's saying either, but he's certainly indicating that whatever virtue it contains, it's not worth the price. The price is obscenely high. Holocaust, Civil War, plague, smallpox. We could just go down the list of the AIDS. This is the price you pay for your fucking virtuous living.
That is his argument.
Yeah, you liars. I mean, can you believe it? I mean, so really, can any of you fuckers grow a little bit of integrity and just point out that, yeah, okay, this guy can't make an argument. He can't be honest or fair to the arguments he's arguing with. He's just going to constantly misparaphrase him. He's just a conniving, stinking, lousy, crappy weasel. You couldn't find a quote of mine that has anything to do with this stupid virtue crap. And you're not going to find virtue in what he's saying either. This is just a pile of shit.
Just the same way Inmendham appeals to utility,
I appeal to efficiency. How many fucking times have I said the word? I mean, I've said efficiency a lot more times than I've said utility. The only time I ever even talk about utility is to say something like negative utilitarian. So again, how is this a fair characterization? I'm not a utilitarian. I'm a negative utilitarian. And the point is that's the to be a negative utilitarian, the only thing you're really saying is there's an efficiency standard. So it's about efficiency. It's about the price you're paying for the motherfucking shit. Price, price, price. The payment, payment, payment. How many fucking times does somebody have to tell you this is about suffering, shithead? And you're fucking right to impose it.
Accounting system, but in truth, it is also a system of virtue ethicists.
Yeah, again, so that's his paraphrase again. So again, he's just going to say it. He's just going to imply it or overtly say it as if this is somehow true, even though the word virtue I find obnoxious. And the other word he uses is whatever, that intrinsic emotional thing, which I've pointed out I have absolutely zero respect for. But he's just going to do it because he's a liar.
Of virtue ethics, insofar as he deems it now that what is virtuous is to do this accounting system.
Yeah. So please, what's the counter argument? There's a thing called bad stuff, okay? Pain, suffering, slavery, torture. Those things really happen in the world, okay? They're real things, and they have a real meaning. And if you're going to impose them, you have to account for them. You have to do something of sufficient positive value or sufficient rescuing somebody from torture to justify the torture. You can't torture somebody unless you're going to save 1.5 tortured victims somewhere else. Yeah, there has to be an accounting. You have to be accountable. Oh, accountability is not a virtue? Oh, that's surprising.
This accounting system based upon a definition without evidence.
Okay, there you go. Without evidence. So if, let's say I did die and I was able to retain the experience and, come back afterwards, wouldn't I have learned what dying is by dying? Wouldn't it have edified me, made me smarter, made me more aware, made me more knowledgeable? If I commit a petty act and, out of just petty hate or something, and I do something really cheap and idiotic, and then I sit there and realize that. Have I edified myself? Have I gained knowledge? Let's say I speed down the road and I almost have an accident. And now I have this knowledge of, oh yeah, this is real deal. This is a real risk. That's not edifying. I haven't gained knowledge and what one could call evidence or reason to defend arguing that maybe speeding is a dumb idea. It wouldn't have evidentiary value in making it sensible to say speeding's bad because, well, I personally experienced it and I tasted a portion of the danger. Of course it would make you more aware, it would make you more knowledgeable, but again, how can somebody be this dishonest to say you don't learn through being conscious? That it doesn't make you kind of an expert on consciousness. Yeah, I think it does.
Without supporting argument.
Well, again, so is this an honest statement, right? Without support, what do you want me to give you as supporting argument? You want me to materially take a brain apart and show you exactly how the pain thing happens and the pleasure thing happens. Well, I can't do that. I've explained that to you. But I can tell you that I'm conscious and I'm experiencing it. And I'm telling you, I don't need any other evidence. It's clear. Consciousness is loud and clear. There's no missing it. It's not something you need a microscope to find. When it's happening to you, it's fucking happening. And I'm sure that's how it is for most other people. Now, maybe it's not that way for you. Maybe you have a hard time finding your consciousness. Maybe you have a hard time making distinctions between something that feels good and something that feels bad. But I'm telling you, I think most human beings, it's no problem at all. And so this idea that there is something really bad out there, that there is a worst case scenario and there is unacceptable scenarios you would not volunteer for, things you would not volunteer to do, like getting eaten alive by a crocodile or something.
Simply an intuition-based gut feel.
So that's the word I hate, is intuition, right? So many times I've talked about how I hate intuition. And now he's going to slander me by saying it's intuition based. And how is it intuition based? Because I'm conscious and I'm using my experience as a consciousness to edify on the subject of consciousness. That's intuition now. So if I learn through personal experience, if I die, and now I know what dying's like, he'll say that now my opinion of death is intuition. It's not an educated opinion, it's intuition. It's not an intuition, it's an education, it's knowledge. I mean, it's just such a disgusting, again, you could do this to anybody. If all I can do, I can just say that every fucking thing that comes out of your mouth is just programmed intuition. I can just say it's all cultural crap. Is that the way you're going to have an argument? Is that how you want to see people have debates in the real world, where they just accuse each other of just talking out of culture? I mean, fuck you.
Feeling of any insight he thinks he has, that he can feed us with the words that intelligence sees it.
Yeah, well, I really can't. Of course, we're intelligent. We, unlike animals, okay, who are just viscerally feeling and intuitioning through their existence, we know we're going to die. We know about our mortality. We know the statistics when it comes to having a kid and what might happen. We know the dangers and the terrors that lie ahead, where an animal might boldly go because it doesn't have any appreciation for the statistical chances of it successfully maneuvering something it's going to do. It doesn't have that kind of living experience to be able to calculate odds and percentages and do all of that stuff in the same way we do it. Yeah, they do it, but they just don't do it as well as we can. And to call that intuition is bullshit. Yes, it's something intelligence sees. Intelligence can understand the long-term impacts. It can understand that barrels rot when you throw them in the ocean, and in 30 years, whatever's in the barrel will leach into the ocean. They can understand those things, where an animal wouldn't.
When one feels things without being able to describe the connections and the logical inferences, such that you leap to a definition to anchor your footing, your logical footings.
So feeling to anchor a logical footing, again, what part of what I've talked about is that an example of? The theory of evolution, the statement that I know my personal sentience is not better than anybody else's personal sentience, that some of my thoughts might be better than theirs, some of my ideas might be more accurate than theirs, some of my notions, but clearly my welfare isn't more important.
And that thing is nothing more than a feeling. Feelings.
Right, so it's nothing more than a feeling, to acknowledge the fact that you live on a planet with other feeling creatures and you have to pay some respect to that, the implications of that you can give other people cancer, that they will cause them suffering, and that suffering would be something you were the creator of. And therefore you'd have to do something miraculously great in your life to compensate for that harm or pain or suffering that you caused. That's a feeling. So that idea, that you're responsible for what you cause in the world, that's a feeling. Fuck. I mean, you're just such a lying piece of shit.
Emotions, and by definition, are not irrational.
Well, I don't know if they are by definition irrational. They have correlations. Emotions have correlations. So, I mean, you're going to call fear irrational? No, fear is a perfectly rational reaction to where you've been edified and you recognize that there's a train coming. Yeah, you're in a tunnel. There's nowhere to run. And so now you feel fear. Well, that sort of makes sense, I think. And then you feel terror, and then you feel horror, and then you feel pain. But I'm just saying, clearly there's that emotional reaction is perfectly correlates to the circumstance and creates a feeling impulse that makes you aware of the fact that you're in trouble and need to do something really smart, really fast. Where's the logical disconnect there? Now, if you want to tell me that you're a bigot, yeah, I'll explain to you how your repulsion or your disgust at some behavior of some person because they pick their nose or do some other silly thing is totally nonsense. It doesn't have any correlation to reality. It doesn't have any correlation to the value of the person or any of that shit. It's just a stupid, idiotic bigotry. Your emotions are misguided. They're not correlated to reality.
Yeah, so I guess sometimes the rational conclusion can also match the feelings, of course.
Oh yeah, of course. So you just say you talk about contradictions, right? You just close the door and then you say, "Wait a minute, I got to open it again." Brilliant.
But an emotional reaction is an irrationality.
Well, how can it be an irrationality if it correlates to rationality? Explain that to me. If it's perfectly consistent with what your rational response would be, in the sense you would say, yes, put on the siren, there's an emergency. You know, because your emotional self did it for you, how is it irrational if it's correct? Jesus, this is stupid. It's perfectly rational. It's just quick rationality versus the slower, thoughtful stuff. We think pretty slowly. We have to, you got to concede. We have to deal with all these abstract language, and we have to, our brain's doing all these conversions. So it does take us a while to think, and sometimes we need to react faster than our thinking machine can handle.
At best can be described as an intuition, which also...
Well, again, I pick out one quote from me that you would call an intuition. I just find this so obnoxious. It's such a disgusting fucking lie. I don't talk intuition. Ever. Alright? You're a lying scumbag. I wish I could sue you because this is a disgusting fucking lie. Alright? I defy you. Quote me in intuitional conversation. Quote me, you fucking cunt.
Which is the output of reason.
Yeah, that's just disgusting. You're disgusting. You're a despicable character. This is just such a... You haven't refuted a single of the bullet point facts of the theory of life's insufficient efficiency. Not one of them have you refuted. Not evolution, not gladiator war as a metaphor. How is it inconsistent with reality, that metaphor? You haven't done any of this work to explain why the unneeded need is needed. You haven't explained why the non-existent Martians are really something that should exist. None of that has been explained. None of this has been refuted. You haven't explained how we are simply useless and producing garbage, producing negative sensations, a negative deficit. We're running a deficit, and you're saying somehow that's okay. Why? Because a DNA molecule made it that way. That's the extent of your counter-argument, and it's lame as fuck. Yeah, but he's really getting to be... I mean, maybe it's gone past any kind of real hate, because now I just hate the fact that, oh, they really are fucking cement-headed retards. I mean, he has the vocabulary, he has enough education to know what evolution is. He's certainly smart enough to understand that it's completely reasonable to recognize that whatever we are, whether you call us human or you call us refrigerator or you call us, spin around in a circle bot, that we're effectively and essentially the same in our functionality. We just make different squeaky noises, we're just painted a different color, but we're basically doing the same thing, and that same thing is controlled mostly, alright, there's no real agency, we're just a byproduct of an environment. a combination of the swirl that has been swirling for thousands of years. And now people are swirling with the realization that, gee, we've been living a lie for thousands of years. All this Jeebus and Mohammed and Buddha and all this other bullshit that gave people rationalizations to live by. But they're fairy tales. There are no three pigs. There's no Goldilocks. There's no happily ever after. There's no afterlife. There's no paradises. There's just a bunch of victims being tortured so you can have a Super Bowl that's not necessary. And that's all that's going on here. Nothing good is happening, and a lot of bad isn't getting cleaned up. And you haven't made a single argument indicating any possibility of a counter piece of logic that can unravel any of that. Not one fucking sentence.